Welcome back to the 5% podcast. My name is Amir. I'm the founder and host. On this episode, we're going to talk about dating shows and what it's like to be on a dating show. So, going back to being in the South Asian community, growing up for some people, dating was maybe a little bit frowned upon, depending on who it is. But as we get older, to kind of quote Tam Core's podcast called Self Obsessed, actually, she mentioned as we get older, we want to step out of our comfort zone. We get curious. We want to go explore things, and that is totally okay. So to get to this story, I was actually just scrolling through social media one day when I actually discovered PopShift and all the amazing stuff that they do. And they actually have a dating show that they produce and put on. And that's actually where I found our guest for today. And she did an awesome job. So without further ado, she'll explain what it's like and go over a few questions and we'll go from there. So without further ado, I give you Namita Patel. Namita, take it away.
Hello, how are you today?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
Good, a little nervous, but like I said, I'm excited to talk about this experience. It's something that a lot of people ask me about.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, don't be nervous at all. You did a fantastic job. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like what I guess what inspired you to do it?
So I'm 25 years old. I just moved to this city a little over a year ago. So I have known about PopShift for a fairly decent amount of time. They have a pretty big presence. I have a lot of friends that are actually involved with them as a company as a whole. When I moved here, people say when you move to a big city, it's easy to make friends, easy to date because there's so many fish in the sea. Wrong. That's not how it is. It's actually harder when you have so many options and so many people to meet. So my first couple of months here were definitely a bit of a struggle, fresh out of a relationship. My ex-significant other lived in the city. I had different expectations when I moved out here. When I got here, I felt fairly lonely. Um, Desi Me Dating. I think the first time I ever saw it was season one when I had COVID. I was like locked up in my room, saw it on YouTube. Me and my sister both had COVID and we watched it. And I somehow got the opportunity to be invited on the show. When I was invited, I was definitely a little skeptical at first. I was like, oh, I don't really know if I want to put myself out there like that. But after a lot of convincing from family, along with convincing myself, I was like, best case, I make friends. I connect with the South Asian community. Like I said, for the first 2 to 3 months of me living in New York, I definitely cried way more than I've cried in my entire life because it was just lonely. It was hard to find where to go, where to meet friends, find people with similar interests. So I decided to go on the show where I could essentially, maybe find someone that I'd be interested in to date, but at least all out of it, I would make a couple friends.
Sweet, sweet. So you're in New York, correct?
Yes, I
That's
am in the Big Apple.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So to jump into the first question, um, kind of give people a little like background on like how it was set up. Like, was it a blind date or did you know who you were like, going on a date with? Like, what was going on?
So I will say a lot of people were very skeptical that the entire thing was a setup, like it's scripted, everything like that. I can honestly say none of it is scripted. I mean, the only thing they really kind of, I guess you could say is scripted when they ask you questions, they might just be like, rather than saying like, they'll be like, oh, like introduce yourself. And I'll be like, oh, I'm Namita Patel. They'll be like, just word it like, hi, I'm Namita Patel. I don't consider that scripting. I consider that polishing. They're not changing any of my answers. They're just helping me answer them in a more professional manner to be like on screen. So no, I had no idea who my date was. They do a couple pre-interviews with you before you go on these dates to essentially match you up with someone that they may think will work out. So I had two dates. I vividly remember in my pre-screening that I said I wouldn't date younger and I wouldn't date older than 30. So my first date was younger. He was 21, and my second date was 31. So I think it was kind of like an experiment to see that, if I didn't meet this person in regards to like looks, like we had a little screen, like a curtain between us essentially. And if personality hit off, and then at the end, I found out their age, their career, etc. So no idea who I was seeing. It was very nerve-wracking in the beginning. I've obviously watched previous seasons, wasn't sure totally what I was getting myself into, but I will say that it's just I think a lot of people what they didn't realize is that you can't really like it's very like it's kind of obvious that it's not scripted. I've seen shows that are like very scripted and like you know who your blind date is and stuff like that. You can get a sense of it. I think in all the Desi Me Dating episodes, including mine, it is fairly obvious that like neither one of the people know what they're getting themselves into.
Wow. Cool, cool, cool. So, what was going through your mind in the scene when you were first meeting Rishi behind the curtain?
So it was definitely bits and pieces that they recorded. They obviously do the pre-interviews, then they blindfold you, take you out. The next person comes in to do their pre-interview. So there's a lot of back and forth. It was about, I would say, a little more than 8 hours of a day that we went through the whole filming. When I finally got to the curtain, I know like I was really like anxious because I wasn't sure like if it was weird. It was this feeling where I didn't know if I wanted to see the person on the other side because I just like I didn't know what my reaction would be. And like, everyone's reactions are natural. Like I'm a little sarcastic and funny and like I didn't want to be like rude when I first interacted. So in the beginning with the curtain, I actually was probably a little bit more comfortable than I was until we saw each other because I was just like, it's just a voice. Like it's just like talking on the phone with someone. Like you're not really like looking
Yeah,
at them. They can't see your facial expressions. So it was definitely pretty I think easier with the curtain in the middle, as weird as that sounds. I think it's just because you're not like I'm like I know my facial expressions. I know myself. Sometimes when I talk, like I show like what I'm feeling. Like if I'm disgusted, you'll see that I feel like disgust. If I'm not like if I'm angry or upset, like I just know that like for me, I think the curtain was more comfortable just because I was like, I don't want people to know how I'm really feeling.
yeah, yeah. No, I think like when I watched that episode, I don't know, like it kind of looked a little nerve-wracking, but then like I think you both handled it really well. Like you both didn't like the conversation wasn't awkward. It wasn't like no one really seemed nervous. Like you both seemed really comfortable. So
Yeah, at no point do I think that either of us, I think like right when you initially meet, it's of course nervous because you're like taking off this blindfold. You just talk to someone for 20 minutes without knowing, like, it's like knowing what they look like. I don't know how people do Love is Blind for like weeks doing these like don't know how that works. I could never. But yeah, I think it was the beginning was nerve-wracking, but me and Rishi like really hit it off in regards to just being like cool and calm and like anytime we had like a break where like we weren't filming like he was also so nice and he was like you good. I was like are you good. We just had a really good understanding, which is kind of why like I do consider him a friend now. We do stay in touch still, but I just feel like if you have someone also across from you that is helping you and just is like the same energy and like he was so sweet about it too. He's like, I can probably understand how you're feeling. Obviously, I'm right in front of you in the same shoes. So it was nice to have like a date that was also understanding of how I might feel throughout the entire like screening and recording.
yeah, that's really helpful, I think, you know. All right, so my second question to you is, do you feel like this show changed your perspective on dating at all?
Yes and no. I don't personally know if I do a show like this again, just because I think that I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. What I take away from the entire show is that like I made a lot of friends. I think when it comes to perspective of dating, um, I will say I'm definitely like a personality over looks kind of person when I date, but I do think looks are, I mean, as some people may not like appreciate that answer, but I do think that I want to be physically attracted to my partner. What I weirdly kind of liked is that I got to learn someone's personality before, because I think that when you talk to someone and you know their personality, even if they may not have all of the physical features that you're looking for, you are already like kind of convinced or like attracted to like their personality. So you may not care as much. I feel like when, I mean, we've all been on our fair share of like Tinder dates, Bumble dates, Hinge dates, Bill Mill, whatever you use. I'm not the kind of person that like really likes texting a lot. I'm just like, call me or like, like if you're gonna like, if you really are interested enough to me, let's like grab a drink this week. Like, I don't really want to like just base judgment off of like text messages and stuff like so I always do like FaceTimes and stuff like that after like a little bit of a conversation. And I think that's like the best way to do it. I don't I just feel like I wouldn't say I've taken dating more seriously after the show, but I definitely think that like I have a better if you have scale and you say personality over looks, my personality scale is definitely higher now because I realized like, there's so much you can just like, I feel like we initially judge as soon as we look at someone. Like, that's just like our first, it's human nature. Like, your first
Yeah.
thing, like, we're swiping on people's photos every day. Like, what can you tell about someone off of their photos? Nothing. Like, you can, like, what you can see that I hiked that one time in a lifetime. You can see that, like, I went to Miami once in my life or like Costa Rica or something like that. Like, you're not really getting to know me. So I know for one thing that I did take away from the show is that I'd really like to get to know someone enough before judging, just being like, oh, you don't meet like my criteria of how you look.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like applying for a job and like, dealing with resumes and stuff. Like I feel like there's so much more to a person than just a resume.
Yeah, that I agree. That's like a completely different like conversation and topic, but I agree with that. I think that like a lot of jobs that I've had in the past, like to relate it, like a lot of the better jobs that I had, my resume was probably not the most impressive one that they saw, but they met me, they had a conversation with me, they judged me off of my personality and like my goals and ambition, and that's what got me the job, not that initial resume that they just looked at. So I will say that, like I said, from the show, I definitely realized that, like, gotta like, if I'm looking for a long-term partner, then like there has to be some give or take in a relationship. You have to let some, you're never gonna, I mean, maybe some lucky person in the world gets everything that they want, but I do think there has to be compromise at some point.
Oh, for sure, for sure. No, I think that's awesome insight that you said. And there, to your point, there really isn't like anything. You were spot on. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, there's just that's why I think like that. I feel like I don't have anything honestly negative to say about the show. I either learned something or I enjoyed something. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, no, it looked fantastic. So big shout out to PopShift.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So what advice would you give someone who's maybe appearing on a show like this for the first time?
So I actually know a few people that are going to be on the next season. No spoilers, but they did but
On
they
it.
did ask me as like friends, like, like, hey, how was your experience? Even actually during the filming, I think I was one of the first dates that they filmed, and I ran into someone who knew that I was filming that week, and so were they. So they asked me like, hey, like, I know we're not really supposed to talk about it or mingle or anything like that, but the advice that I gave to anybody who's asked me about this is if you're going to do a show like this, there was two things. You have to be accepting of the backlash that's going to come with it. I have a video that's currently going viral because I don't say my last name correctly. Like, when I
I saw
introduced,
that.
and it's still going viral. I cannot, if I pulled out my phone right now and I showed you my notifications, I still get hate comments. I still get people to like my God. And this is what,
But
like, this episode came out over the summer. It's been a decent amount of time. Like, it's been like, I would say at least 4 to 5 months that this episode has been out, and I'm
wow.
still getting backlash on it. And I think that for me, before I went on the show, I made a rule with myself. And I actually told my Rishi this because, like I said, he got a little bit of backlash on like people thought he was being like racist at some point. I was like, don't interact. Let people say what they want to say. I was like, when you interact, you're feeding in to what they're saying. And that's what people want, right? Like, it's like when people bully you, when you like give them a reaction, they obviously are inclined to want to do it more because you're reacting. If you step back, I mean, I do that. My mom fights with me like over some dumb stuff sometimes, and I just don't say a word. I just step away and I let it go. It just avoids like a stronger argument. So I always told people like, look, you one, be prepared. People would take anything, like any little thing, and make fun of you, make you like give you negative comments, put you down. I can't like I could go through all like my last name. Obviously, I get comments on my nose all the time. Oh, she has a big nose, whatever. Fine, got that. Someone told me that I talk like Sylvester Stallone. Honestly, that's a compliment in my eyes. I love Sylvester Stallone, so I'll take it. But like there's just these
Yeah.
ridiculous things. So you can't get upset about that. I also do
Yeah.
think that something, there was a lot of my episode, which I didn't notice in other people's episodes, is I got a lot of questions about my sex life. And, I was caught off guard in the moment and I was getting to a point where I was getting a lot of questions. I kept skipping them, but then it was just getting like it was just dragging time. I was like, oh, I don't want to answer this. I don't want to answer this, which I will say they're very great about if you're not comfortable, don't answer. But then I got to a point and I was like, I'm just going to answer. Like, I just want this date to go. I just want this to flow. If you don't want to answer something, say no. And if you do answer something just because you're like, okay, I keep saying no, think about what you say before you say it. It's not like the show is not meant to put you down. They're not taking your clips and like editing them or revamping them to make you sound so you said it. It came out of your mouth. So like if you're going to do a show like this, if you're going to be upset like, "Oh, I wish I didn't say this or I wish I didn't do that," then just evaluate before you make the choices that you do on camera. I did have, in the beginning, I did have a little bit of regret with some of the questions that I answered because, like, I'm obviously not going to encourage my family to watch my episode. Like, they don't need to know all of that. And it sucks because my mom knew it was happening. So I let them live off of the little clips here and there. But, like, it's just something that you have to prepare yourself for. Like, if you're not comfortable, or maybe just like before you answer, like, I think for me, I was at one point, I was so nervous that I was literally just spilling out whatever came to my head. Like if the answer, like whatever answer I gave, it was the truth, but I wasn't thinking like, okay, Namita, this is gonna be like for everyone to see. Do I regret it now? No. Like I said, I accepted that. I said those things. It is what it is. It's out there. But for people in the future, I've said, like think before you answer something, knowing that it's going to be out there for the public eye.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
it's a lot more. For you would think like 20 minutes of a YouTube show wouldn't be that much, but it was definitely a lot.
Yeah, no, everything you explained, it sounds like a lot, but that's just awesome what all you said. Really appreciate all your insight and everything. So thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, if you're someone looking for like friends and like an experience, I would definitely do it. I would just, be cautious of like what you're getting yourself into. Um, I know like I said, I have DMs that I refuse to open. Like people were sending me voice notes at one point, like learn how to say your last name. This is how you say it. Like don't be whitewashed. Don't do this. And I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, I really just don't care. Like I had that specific video. I like my mom called me one day and she was like, her brother called her from California and was like, "Oh, we were having this Diwali party in my neighborhood, and I was part of the check-in crew. And as we were checking off people's names, one of his friends were like, "Oh, did you see that video that about the girl that says Patel?" And like showed my uncle the video. My uncle was like, "That's my niece." Like that's how like 45-year-old men are, are watching this video. So like I definitely learned a lot about like I just think that like people should understand that if you're going to put yourself out there, no, it's out there. Like you cannot limit your audience. Like anyone and everyone can see that.
Once it's out there, it's out there, you know?
Well, yeah, it's not going anywhere. They're not deleting it per your request. Like it's just like being on any other like social media platform. Whatever we post on the internet is always somewhere there.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, is there anything like you learned from that or that any like big takeaways you got from that situation?
I think that, like I said, watch what I post on social media, watch what I
Yeah.
say. In the a big thing that I got from my episode, which I really loved, is a lot of girls related to a lot of my answers about like my past relationship or my view on certain things. And I had girls DMing me asking me for relationship advice, and I was like treading like really lightly, and I was like, I want to be very honest. I'm not a therapist, and I don't want to give you advice that's wrong. That being said, I was like, I would like, I'm here for you. It was really nice to like be there for people because I wish I would have had people that could have been there for me. Like, obviously, I had my sisters, but like, it was really nice getting like like giving them a different perspective, like I said, which they liked. It opened up a lot of doors in regards to like I did a lot of podcasts about like self-love, which is something that I'm focusing on, and just getting out there, meeting people, supporting South Asian brands, etc. So there is a plus of obviously being out there. But then like I said, the negative is that like you also have bullies and haters and people that I had some, I don't even know what account. It looked like a bot account, but they found me on every social media. Facebook, Instagram. I don't even use my YouTube account. I only like have YouTube because of my email. I had someone find me on LinkedIn, a guy, and he emailed me on my work email. And
What?
basically, yeah, like it sent me an email on my professional work corporate email, basically like reaching out to me, asking me out. I had someone send me hate mail on my work, like people were finding me on LinkedIn and like reaching out to me on that. I have like my business email on my Instagram, which is obviously open to the public, but like my work is very like private and professional and like
Yeah,
I I was like sitting there one day and I was like, do I need to report this to HR? Like, can I get in trouble for this? I'm not sending an email, but like
yeah,
I'm getting like what am I supposed to do? So like I just think that I learned that, you have to be careful. And I was public for a little bit. I went public on Instagram in the beginning because I wanted people to like I wanted to reach out to people and brands and stuff like that in regards to like building like myself and like I said building this like self-love concept that I'm working on that I want to spread with the world, but I just realized how many negative people there are out there and it kind of like backlashed on me more than it did a positive impact, which is so unfortunate. So I took a step back from social media for a little bit. I was just like I'm going to take a break. I not going to lie, I love social media. I think social media is a great platform for the right reasons. So yeah, I've been a little bit more cautious about what I'm posting nowadays and, reposting just because people take everything and make like anything out of it. Like it's
yeah.
just like you give someone a bowl of ingredients and they make like someone makes soup, another person makes a pie, another make person does this. Like it's just people make anything out of like the smallest thing. And I will say that I stayed really strong throughout the process because like I said, I prepared myself mentally before I went on the show. But I also know a few people who didn't prepare themselves mentally before they went on the show. And they were not happy with how they were perceived and what happened. And they sat there defending themselves. And I'm like, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm just not going to interact. Like, there's no reason to encourage these people who are sitting watching me on YouTube, bored with their
It's not
lives.
worth the mental
Like,
energy.
yeah, it's just not worth the energy of doing that. But yeah, I definitely think next time I probably would, before I did something like this, probably take like my work email off my LinkedIn and stuff, which is unfortunate that I have to do that. But I just tell people like when they go out and put themselves out there, they just like be careful with like what they have and what forms of contact so that people can't really reach them for like everywhere.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think it's really unfortunate that like, just how much negativity there is out there. You know, like with like for example with what you did, that to me that takes a lot of, stepping out of your comfort zone and stuff. And you should be really proud of what you did. That's not a lot of people get to do that. So
Yeah, I don't think people have, it's like not the hardest opportunity to get, but it's also not the easiest. And I
yeah,
just think that like, and it is, I really did put myself out there. Like I, moved to New York, fresh out of a relationship, nervous, like I said, lonely. And then the first thing I did was go on this freaking dating show. And like when you get on there in the moment, like leading up to it, I was like, oh, it's nothing. Like it's fine, like whatever. And then like you get
yeah,
there and it's just cameras, cameras and people. And you're like,
everywhere.
okay, like This is, and I'm grateful. I actually am now like best friends with the makeup artist that they had on site, but her and I hit it off like the minute I got there. So like I was lucky that she had my back. Like anytime she was like, put your shoulders up, like 'cause she knew I was getting nervous and stuff like that. So I was definitely grateful. Like I said, I made some really long-lasting friendships. But I just think that like people don't realize like it comes with a lot more than just like being on YouTube. Like it's not like, oh, I was just on YouTube. Oh, a couple of my videos went viral. Like it comes with a lot more than just that. And it's sometimes it's scary. Like I said, I was extremely nervous that someone was able to find my work email and email me on a corporate email. Like, what else can they find about me? Like, can they find out like where I live or like where I go and any like social media? Like, I couldn't even I was scared to post stories on Instagram at one point, like at what bar I was at or something like that. Cause I was like, what if someone just shows up here? I know it sounds like really extra, but like it's not when you're like getting
Yeah,
like,
no, you're
I didn't share a lot of my experiences with like a lot like the emails and stuff like I did, but like if I go through the DMs of like some of the things people had to say to me, not like kind and unkind, like yeah, it's a little scary. And then I would naturally some of the people I would just like casually look at their profile and they're based out of New York and I'm public and I'm like they can see where I am, what I'm doing. Like there are psychos out there, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, you have to be so careful with social media these days, especially like, in a big city like that, you don't know who's who, you don't know where
Yeah.
people are coming from, you don't know where, you don't even know if people are real. So,
You don't. I mean, like I went to a couple events after the show came out. I went out for Diwali one time and I'm just like at this rooftop and this was one of the nicer situations that happened to me, but I'm at this rooftop and everybody knew me. Anybody that I looked at stared at me and I knew exactly why they were staring at me. And then while I was leaving, I had this couple like run up to me and they were like, "Oh my God, Namita, we're your biggest fans." And I'm like, "Fans of what?" Like, what are you people fans of? And they were like, oh, like we saw your show, we loved your episode. And like, it was nice, obviously, but like, that was like and anywhere I go now, and I really mean that, like anywhere that I go that's like a South Asian community, somebody knows me. And sometimes it's just like a little exhausting. I went to a Mexican restaurant in Kips Bay, like randomly one day with my best friend from back home was visiting, and we were sitting having a glass of wine, and like in the most non-racial way, a Spanish woman came up to me and was like, "Aren't you the girl from YouTube?" And in my head, I was like, what are you doing watching a South Asian dating show? Like, well, why are you watching my dating show? Well, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't know who sees it, when they see it, and who's going to recognize you. And like, sometimes you just want someone to be like invisible again.
mhm. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Totally get that. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this concludes this episode on what it's like to be on a dating show. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the 5% podcast on both Instagram, now on TikTok, and YouTube. And without further ado, oh, one last thing. Shout out to PopShift again and also Desi Me Dating for all the fantastic work that they do. And with that being said, stay tuned for the next episode.